So I'm going to part 3 of our ultimate guide to your next holiday in Florida, and for this section we'll be going over cars and travel. So we'll be going over all the different options that you have depending on which airport you fly into, whether it be Tampa or Orlando. Of course, we'll have a look at the available car hire companies for each and which one might be able to give you the best deal depending on how many of you are. And of course your public transport and taxi options from each place as well, and of course to the parks as well. So let's start off by looking at your options from Tampa International Airport. For your hire car, in order to access your hire car upon arrival, once you have your bags, you'll want to take the Skyliner train to the rental car centre. In total, about 5 to 10 minutes walk, about 15 minutes in total to get there. The car hire companies are split north and south. So in the north section, you have Ace, Advantage, Dollar Car Rental, Executive, Fox, Hertz, Sixt, 50 and Zipcar. And in the south you will have Alamo, Avis, Budget, Enterprise, National and Payless. So from Tampa Bay, your distances to the park, we've not touched this briefly, although we'll get it again. Walt Disney World is about 80 miles, about an hour 15 to an hour and a half. Universal is 84 miles, an hour and 20, an hour and a half, 35 minutes. To US Highway 192, Western tourist areas, 75 to 85 miles depending on which bit you're staying on, 121 to 137 kilometres, an hour and 15 to about an hour and 35. To International Drive, 82 to 86 miles, again depending on whereabouts you are, 1 hour 20 to 1 hour 35. Of course, if you are travelling during rush hour, you'll want to add at least 15 to 30 minutes to each of those because of the stupid traffic on the I-4. So in Tampa, these are, as we've just been over your hire car options, we've got some prices from some of the big boys. So these are all depending on how much luggage you have and how many people you are. The prices that we've done are for 2 weeks. For a minimum car with 4 people will carry 2 suitcases, 2 large suitcases. But of course, with those, you could probably get 3 or 4 in them, realistically anyway. So with Dollar, prices range from $3,700 to $30,000 for one of the smaller cars to $1,082.59. Again, this depends on size of luggage, how many passengers, and of course how posh you want the car. If you want, say, I don't know, a Renault, then it'll be cheaper than if you want a BM or a Range Rover. So Hertz, you'll be looking at $447 to $1,746. For Sixt, you'll be looking at $435.35 to $1,005.36. For 50, you'll be looking at $372.30 to $1,082.59. Alamo, it'll be $512.74 up to $2,073. They do have quite premium options. Avis, it'll be $427.98 up to $2,119.98. And Enterprise will be $546.30 up to $21.77.27. Now there is a public transport option from Tampa. It is probably not recommended to do this, but if you have no other choice, you can do it. There is a bus service from the airport rental office centre. The route that we've got is from Google Maps, and it takes around 5 hours to get, which I will now show you. So let's have a look at one of the routes that you could take from Tampa International Airport using public transport. So as you start off, you'll have to go through the terminal to the rental car centre on the Sky Connect tram. Then you'll have to head outside of the rental facility and take the 300 purple bus, about 8 stops into central Tampa bus station. You will then want to take a minute walk to, as I said, Tampa bus station and get on the Flix bus to Orlando, which is the green route there, as you can see, which goes all the way up the I-4. This will not stop until it gets direct into Orlando bus station. You will then want to get the 49 just down at the West Colonial Drive to the Link Central. Then you'll want to swap onto the blue 300, which will then take you all the way in to Disney Springs, and from there you can get your bus to whichever resort you are staying at. There are multiple options to routes that you can do for this one, but this is the one that I was recommended by Google Maps as being the easiest. So now going on a journey. The cost of the journey is around £22 per person, depending on which bus you get, and that's each way. So for a family of 4, you're going to be looking at £88 both for each way, 176 quid about in total. For your taxi pickups at Tampa, they are going to be located on the ground transport quad lots, blue 1, blue 2, red 1, red 2, and they are on level 1 of the main terminal. For a taxi service to the main tourist areas or Universal, say Highway 192, International Drive and Disney, will cost you around $80 to $200 depending on which service you use, whether it be a private hire or a ride share. And next up, let's go over Orlando Airport. So for your car hire, the access will be once you've arrived, proceed to level 6 to collect your luggages first, in Terminal C this is, and then you'll proceed to level 4 for the hire car centre. This will then connect directly to the parking facility C2, which is where all of the hire cars are located. The companies available at the terminal are Alamo, Avis, Budget, Dollar, Enterprise, Hertz, National, Payless, 6 and Thrifty. If you use any other company than those, you will have to go to Terminal B to pick up your car, so that will be a faff, so make sure you use one of those if you're flying into Terminal C. So distance to the parks, again we've gone over this, but we'll go over it again briefly. Walt Disney World, 22 to 25 mile, about 25 to 35 minutes. Universal, 14 to 16 mile, 20 to 30 minutes. US 192, 25 to 30 miles, about 30 to 45 minutes. International Drive, 10 to 15 miles, 15 to 25 minutes. And you can add an additional 15 to 30 minutes to each of those in rush hour, especially if you're going under the I-4. So your hire car cost options. This will depend vastly on how much luggage you've got, how many people you are transporting, and what tier of car you want. If you want a Renault, you'll pay a lot less than if you want, say, a massive minivan or a BMW or a Range Rover. Just to put context out there. So for dollar, your price starts at $481.80. This is for 2 weeks, just as well. 2 weeks in summer. Prices for dollar start at $481.80 and go up to $1597.24. Hertz is 410 to 1880. Sixth is 439 18 pence to 2631.19. Thrifty 481.80 to 1597.24. Alamo, these are going slightly. This one is the one most expensive because they do offer very premium options at the top end. £512.74 up to £3,278.90. Avis is 427.98 to 2127.98. Budget is 505.98 up to 2119.98. And Enterprise is 538.38 all the way up to 3,463.85. Again, all dependent on luggage, the car you want, the tier of car you want, and how many people you need it for. So, public transport, there is a possibility from Orlando International Airport, not from Terminal C, however. You will need to get a taxi or a bus service, up to Terminal B or A arrivals, where you will then be able to get your bus further on. The route, as we'll be able to see shortly, via Google Maps, will take to the main resort areas and take around an hour to get to most of the resort areas. So this is an example route from Orlando International Airport again to Walt Disney World. This one's much simpler than if you were going to Tampa. Well, it would be because it's a lot closer. So International Airport, you'll want to make your way from Terminal C back to the main terminal via bus or taxi. Once you are there, you'll want to jump on the 311 East Buena Vista Drive and Bonnet Creek Parkway bus, which then will take you all of the way through the estates, all the way to Disney Springs, and at that point you can jump on whichever bus it is to your desired resort. There of course are many different options, of course, when you go to Universal, International Drive and all of those, which you can be able to easily detail. I would recommend using Google Maps as well. So now you've seen the journey, how much is it going to cost you? Surprisingly not a lot. The main bus route to the resorts is around £1.50 per person per way. So if you want to take that route, it can be a very cost-effective way of getting to your resorts. However, a lot of the buses, especially the one that's £1.50, go to Disney Springs only. So then you need to go there and then also get on your bus to your resort, which, if you're staying on property, is spot on. Your rideshare and taxi options, they are available once again. and you'll have to get your taxi from Terminal C, located on level 1, which is ground transportation, outside of doors C108 to 109. This will cost $50 to $100 per ride, depending on, again, which service you use, private or rideshare, how much tip you decide to give them, and of course which route they take, as many of the roads do have tolls. And finally, we'll go over the transportation options that you have around each resort area. So starting off with Disney, their main options are bus, Skyliner, boat or self-driving, depending of course which resort you are at and whereabouts you are on property. All of those I've just stated are also free. Technically the car is free because you've already prepaid the hire fee. Rideshare options, if you wish to do that from your hotels, if you don't want to get the bus and you haven't got your own car, it will run you anywhere between $15 to $30 a day to get to the parks and back. But if you're going to somewhere like Universal, you will be paying $25 to $50 a day, which I strongly do not recommend, because at that point you might as well have got your own car. Because after 2 weeks you'd be looking at £300 to £400, which is the cost of a car. Because if you can't drive, then obviously that's your option that you have. The Universal, you have bus and boat are basically your only two options, which are free, of course, unless you're using your own car. We'll get onto that in a sec. Rideshare will cost around $10 to $20 around the Universal Resort, depending on which hotel you're at. If you go to Disney, it'll be anywhere from $25 to $50 a day, which again, not recommended because that really can stack. Of course, self-driving is an option, but at Universal, the fee that you pay for parking at the hotel does not transfer to the parks. So if you're staying as a hotel, I would strongly recommend you do not move your car, otherwise you'll end up paying twice for parking, which is not good. So if you're staying on site, definitely use those free transportation options. If you're off-site, you can get local buses to the resorts, depending on which hotel you are at. However, if you're at a villa or a condominium, I would strongly recommend you only stay at these if you have your own car, as it is going to be a bit of a faff to get anywhere to a bus route, especially if you're right at the back of a complex. It could take you up to an hour to walk out of some of them because they are huge. And of course, if you're staying in a villa and you want to use a taxi every day, it would run you anywhere between $30 to $100, depending on where you're going. So again, that is not recommended for me. As I said, if you're staying in a villa or condominium that's as well outside the resorts, I would strongly recommend you only do this if you have your own car. So to finish off this section, let's have a quick summary of all that we've discussed. So for Tampa Airport, your best option for transportation if you're getting a car will to use $1 or Thrifty to get the best bang for your buck. If you want to choose public transport, it will take anywhere up to 5 hours, as we've gone over the route, cost you about £22 per person. Rideshare and taxi, anywhere between $80 to $200 depending on which service you want to use. Heading over to Orlando, your best choice for hire company would be Hertz, as they offer the best deal on from there. Public transport is again possible, but you've got to go over to Terminal AB to arrivals to get the bus, which takes around an hour, as we've already gone over, to get to most resorts. But however, it is very, very cheap. It's only £1.50 per person each way. So that is a great budget option if you don't mind getting the bus. Again, taxis, easy option to go straight out the front doors, $50 to $100 to get to most resorts depending on tips and service that you use, and of course tolls. And transportation around the parks, as we've already gone over, Disney bus, Skyliner and boats. Obviously, if you're going to Universal from Disney, I strongly recommend you have a car. So if you're going to Disney from Universal, because otherwise taxi fees will be astronomical. And again, if you're at Universal, don't use your car when you're staying there because you'll have to pay twice for parking. Off-site, unless you're staying at a hotel that gives you a bus, I would strongly recommend you have a car, because getting from a villa or condominium or most of the hotels without one will be a pain in the arse and will run you anywhere between $30 to $100 a day in transportation costs. So I hope you enjoyed this section on all your transportation options when you are in Florida. If you find it useful, like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Leave any comments down below if anything that we may have missed, which might help others out. If you want to follow us on socials, of course, Twitter, Instagram, Shit Talk, all those down below. If you want to go above and beyond, you can get some stuff from our Fire merch shop or join the channel as a member. And next off, we'll move on to look at ticketing information for the theme parks.